The Dallas Stars play their best game of the season, and they take down the Penguins in Pittsburgh by a final score of 4-1 and head back home with another 2 points in their pocket. Let's discuss this one next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105.3 The Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Thank you so much for making this your first listen and making us a part of your day. A fun one last night, a big time win on the road for the Dallas Stars to hand the Penguins their third straight loss. And it was the first time they've won in the Steel City since 2015. And they did a lot of things right. They're starting to gel and they're heading in the right direction. Not quite a full 60 minutes, but certainly on the right track. We're going to get into all of this one here. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I want to start here. So another turnover at the opposing blue line cost the Dallas Stars. And Pittsburgh is able to get on the board first in the last minute of the first period. The Stars eventually take a penalty, and then they have to kill off a penalty at the beginning of the second period. And then Jason Robertson enters the equation. Robo scores a big goal at the right time, as he usually does. His first of the season, a beautiful little backhand tuck against Alex Nedeljkovic, who actually played a very good game for the Pens. Credit where credit is due, but not good enough to stop Jason Robertson, who scores a big time goal, and it got the Stars on the board, and they seemed to open up and play freely from there, and they got the job done. And it was the genesis of going on the forecheck, getting the puck in deep, the cliches, so to speak, put it in beneath the end line and go to work. And the next thing you know, you get a chance right in front of the net, and Robertson cashes in. Craig Smith and Rope Hintz with the assists on that goal. And then the Stars just played a very clean game from there. You know, the first period was wide open. It was flying for both sides. It was chance after chance. Jake Oettinger, once again, man, I don't know what else to say about this guy. Incredible. 38 saves in the victory, and he was almost perfect. And the goal he gave up was really tough. And once again, it's an issue up the ice, and then an odd man rush is given up, and Pittsburgh's able to cash in with rust. But other than that, man, he just made a couple of spiffy stops on the PK, especially, which we'll get into. He just continues to amaze, and he shut down some very talented goal scorers on the Penguins who are not playing their best hockey early on this season. They're an older group, one of the oldest rosters in all of the NHL. I think they are the oldest roster. And the Stars got to their foot speed, and it really showed. And I think they wore down Pittsburgh, and they ended up getting a very, very nice win. So great job by Robertson to just kind of kickstart that. And then after that, the Stars kind of just continued to roll. Evgenii Dadanov with a beautiful goal in front too. It was a great play by Seguin, actually, as he entered the offensive zone. He does that little button hook, and what it's all about, baby, buying yourself time and space. Seguin buys himself some time and space. He hands it off to Harley, who's off the bench, and he puts it in front. And Duchene, with a nice nifty play, gets it to the crease. And Dadanov, boxing out his defenseman, ends up hammering it into an empty net. And the Stars went on the lead. And that was a big goal, too, to take the lead, and they never looked back from there. But that first 5 minutes of the second period was so huge. Killing off that penalty, that personnel for Pittsburgh is just laughable. When you have Chris Letang on your bench, because he's not good enough to play on your first power play unit. And it's not that he's not good enough. There's just too many. There's an embarrassment of riches. You're doing something right. And the Stars were able to hold strong against the Pittsburgh power play too. Big credit to Pete DeBoer. I wanted to touch on this in the final segment too a bit, not being afraid to change it up. And he flip-flopped some wingers. You had Marchment go down to the fourth line, and that actually was a nice line with Marchment, Foxa, and I believe it was Craig Smith. Yeah, that was the trio. And they started to play very well. And you put Dellandrea up with Johnston and Ben, which is a line that had a lot of playing time together before Dadanov entered the equation. And of course, you dropped him down with Duchene. You're not going to touch the top line. They're fine. And it really just, it seemed to inject some life into the club. It looked a little cleaner and they were a bit more connected. So props to DeBoer for not just resting on his laurels and waiting for the offense to come or waiting for the chemistry to happen. He kind of forced the issue a bit, and it certainly helped. And they played their best hockey game of the season, which was good. The first period was a bit hit or miss in some aspects of the game, but a lot to like in this one. And it's a very quality road win. Thomas Harley was fantastic. I thought he played his best game of the year in Philly, or against Philly, I should say. And then he was phenomenal against the Penguins. Man, he's going to be a stud for a long time. I love this kid. He was using his speed and he was jumping up in the rush against the Flyers. And then in this one, he defended extremely well. The whole team, I thought, defended pretty well from about the second half of the second period onwards. They gave up way too many grade A chances early. Pittsburgh could have gone up by a couple. And maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins can say the same thing with some of the chances they gave up, but Otter had to make some point-blank stops on some of their great goal scorers like Gunstall and Malkin and Crosby. That trio had plenty of chances, but Harley with a 2-point night, a beautiful goal. It was an empty net, but it was still beautiful, and it's all created by Robertson too, where he pickpockets Crosby, or at least forces Crosby into a bad area. He creates the turnover, runs into Nedeljkovic, who I don't know what he was doing, but it was a last desperation dive for him. And then Harley's able to capitalize and bury it into the open net. But he played really well. Hakanpää and Lindell, give them credit on the back end. I thought Lindell played his best game of the season too on the back end. The penalty kill, of course, which we'll get into a bit next. Big shout out to them for holding it down. They've been the saviors, so to speak, with the power play having some of their issues. The power play, of course, goes 0 for 2 on the night, but it looked better. I will say that, especially their second power play. The first one was pretty just, not good. The second one, though, was a bit better. They won some draws and they set some things up. They started to get chances and trying to take the eyes away from Nedeljkovic. They didn't do a great job, but there was something there, which was a good sign. And they're moving in the right direction. You would love for them to cash in and start to be productive, because then you can really put teams away on special teams. But if you're not scoring, you might as well kill off the penalties that you do take, and they had to do that a few times. Miro, just some of the time on ice numbers, excuse me. Miro just played under 23 minutes, very even, and with the score, it allowed DeBoer to not have to shorten the bench as much, and with it not being a close game. So they were able to limit Miro to just 22 and 55 seconds. Once again, Lindell up there to 22 and a half. Harley with his excellent play, just 16:45. So very, very efficient for him, but great line combinations, I thought. Of course, the top unit was really good, but I like that DeBoer just kind of switched it around. And, the Dadanov, Duchene, and Seguin line was very impressive. And Sagan's played just so good this year. You have to give him a lot of props. I think he's just kind of at this point in his career where he's just not going to collect the points at this time in his career. It's just not going to be there, but I think he just plays such a consistent game and he knows his role, and he was great in the defensive zone, made a couple of excellent poke checks and denied some passes from Pittsburgh. And that goes a long way, right? It's those things that don't show up on the stat sheet, but I love when he does things like that and he contributes. It doesn't always have to be on the score sheet, and he played another heck of a game. But all around, you have Wyatt Johnston again with his second goal of the season. He continues to be one of the best, man. He's just always making something happen, and he scored a pretty goal. And Nedeljkovic got a bit off his post, and then he just jammed it home. He didn't even really jam it home. Nedeljkovic kind of helped him out and put it in. But Pavelski with a point, Robertson with 2 points in the affair too, and Duchene gets his first as a Dallas Star. So things are heading in the right direction, which is a good sign. Turnovers were not as bad in this one. There was some smells of it, but they were able to play a relatively clean hockey game for almost 60 minutes. So they're getting there, and it was fun to watch. Let's segue into the PK, because that just seemed to really stall the momentum for Pittsburgh and kind of shut this one down. Of course, we'll speak on Oettinger too, and we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors is phenomenal, folks. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home that winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only for U.S. customers. Already back here on Locked On Stars. Thank you so much for all your contributions, feedback, and I guess I should say engagement. You guys have been so fun to interact with the comments, and love hearing your perspectives and all your different predictions and different things like that. It's been a lot of fun. So very, very excited, and a bing bong moment, right? We're bing bonging because the Stars win. I heard that's what we do here. So I wanted to get that in for all you Stars fans out there. Also, I just want to say, since we're here, big shout out to the Texas Rangers on making it to the World Series, just stomping the Stros in Houston and getting back to the World Series for the first time since 2011. That's just very, very exciting. So go check out Locked On Rangers too. I know Brian over there is going to town. He's having a ball, which he should be. And I think everybody in the Metroplex is too. Anyways, back to some of the hockey talk here. Man, this PK's been phenomenal. Oettinger has certainly helped it, okay, because he's been marvelous too throughout the season in his first 4 starts. I get that, but shout out to guys like Ty Dellandrea, Radek Faksa, Esa Lindell, Yanni Hakanpää, of course Miro, and a bit of Suter in there. I got to throw that in there. He's been good at some times on the PK. We can give him credit where credit is due, all right? But they're now 15 for 15 on the season, and they were able to skunk Pittsburgh, who is incredible. Not on the power play so far this season, but just personnel-wise, I mean, there's Hall of Famer. There's 4 Hall of Famers on their one power play unit. Crosby, Carlson, Malkin, and, I guess Letang's not on there, but there's some deadly guys on their power play unit. So they're just work so hard. And what was so great about last night was they took sticks away. They made it really, really tough for Pittsburgh to get interior, especially. It was a lot of perimeter work, and they were buzzing around. I mean, the Penguins were whipping it, and they were getting looks, but they were keeping them to the outside. Those shots from the outside of the circles, one-timers, and they blocked a ton of shots, 19 blocked shots, which certainly is going to help your netminder. But they're just so active with their sticks. Of course, being in the face-off dot really helps. They're really good there, even though they were not as good against Pittsburgh in this one. But at the same time, Pittsburgh, as I mentioned yesterday, has always been superb in the faceoff dot. It's hard to beat guys like Crosby and Malkin, and Pittsburgh was good on that. On the power play, they were 6 for 9. The Penguins were. So the Stars were only 1 for 6. So they didn't get the job done there in the dot, but they got sticks in the way. They took some time and space, and they got some big clearances when they needed to. And it's been pretty routine so far. And of course, Oettinger has to help, but that's the nature of the game. And when you're facing a unit like the Penguins that just have so much firepower, they're going to get their looks. And Oettinger was there to clean it up every single time. And it held them into the game. It was, 2-1 at one point when Pittsburgh got their third? It may have been 3-1. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a big conjecture of the game. I think it was 2-1. And the Stars kill off the penalty, and it allows them to go on the hunt. And they were really good in that aspect. They forechecked hard. They created turnovers by doing that. And Pittsburgh was a bit sloppy in their own end, and the Stars were able to capitalize. And it was an excellent job on the road. Not a whole lot of negatives in this one. And, I don't want to be just praising them constantly. Well, I don't want to word it like that, but there's always stuff to improve on, of course, but I'm thrilled to see it kind of all come to fruition, and they're starting to play in the right direction. I'm interested to hear what DeBoer has to say, and listen into those comments too, and just what he thought about the play as a whole, because they started to really find their groove there. Looking at the heat maps too, which is always interesting. They gave up way too much stuff in tight to Pittsburgh, but they also had their attempts, and that was something really nice to see. Guys like Johnston, of course, score their goal right in front of the crease. Dadanov too. Robertson. I mean, think of the 3 goals they scored, and of course, Harley was practically an empty netter. So all the goals they basically scored were within a foot of the crease, and it's not your Jamie Benns and your Pavelskis. It's your Robertsons and your Johnstons, Dadanov even, getting into the dirty areas and delivering. And that's what you love to see, because that's where you got to score your goals sometime. And they did a great job on Tuesday night. A wonderful frozen frenzy with all 32 teams playing. So I'm sure everybody got their hockey fix in, and the Stars come back with another 2 points as they get prepared for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some other guys I would love to give a shout out to, because I think there was a lot of great hockey was played. Delandry, after sitting a few games, he came in, did not miss a beat. Pretty much what I would expect out of him. Craig Smith has been a wonderful addition. He kills penalties, he takes draws, and he has enough speed. He's kind of like Luke Glendening, but maybe a quicker first step. And it seems like he's always making something happen. And he's had his struggles and moments, but I just love his play. He makes the simple play, and every time I see him out there, it feels like the puck's heading towards the net, or he's on a rush, and he's just doing something right. And guys like that are so invaluable. So good for him. I thought Marchment looked better tonight. The power play, or the penalty he took, was not good, of course, but when DeBoer dropped him down to that fourth line, I thought he looked better, and he was playing a bit more style of his game. And maybe that's a home that will fit him. Of course, we'd rather, with the off-season acquisition from a year ago, you want him to be kind of that offensive guy and it kind of explode offensively, because he got off to such a hot start last year and it never really sustained for a full season. But if that's the role he has to play, which maybe that's better for him. He's a guy that likes to be unhinged and be aggressive. So maybe that works out in his favor. And Dellandrea is kind of a plug and play with any line. He just kind of plays that style of game. And it's no problem pairing him with Johnston and Ben. But big shout out to the PK once again, 15 for 15 on the season. That's pretty incredible because they face some pretty talented groups and they're getting the job done there. And it's not without the help of Jake Oettinger. And shout out to Wedgwood too, against Philly. Even though he gave up 3 shorthanded goals, which were none of his fault. I'm not putting that on him. But he was good when Philly had some of their power plays too. Okay, let's wrap this one up. Fun one. Dallas Stars win, of course. Always great. Talk a bit about Pete DeBoer. He seems to push the right buttons, and we have to give him credit there. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time obsesses with getting you the best seats in the stadium. The World Series is coming up, guys. In Arlington, the Texas Rangers are going to have home field advantage. And of course, the Stars are coming back home on Thursday night. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, all those types of events. With zone deals, you can pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Isn't that nice? So you can take the guesswork out of buying those tickets on Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Alrighty, let's wrap this one up today. On Wednesday, it's Hump Day and celebrating a Stars victory. Great time to be a sports fan in the Metroplex. That is for sure, with the Rangers heading to the World Series soon. And Dallas has their eyes, the Stars do, on something big too, which is very, very fun. And a good win. Best game of the season, as I mentioned. A turnover came back to bite them in the rear end. But after that, I thought they played a very, very clean hockey game. And it was the first, I would say, the best group effort too. It just seemed like everything kind of came together and they were able to get the job done. And I have to give a shout out to DeBoer in making some adjustments. And I've already touched on it, but flip-flopping some wingers around, I thought was excellent, and maybe it was just needed because we've come into the season just knowing what the lines were. I mean, we can be frank. Really, we were only wondering what the final forward is going to be, and we're still kind of wondering that on most nights. Is it going to be Steele? Is it going to be Dellandrea? But other than that, the top 9 were pretty much written in stone. And of course, with the injuries and stuff taking place in training camp, it did not all fall into place perfectly. But on opening night, besides Rope, you had everything you expected. And since then, we have. And throwing Dellandrea on with Ben and Johnston was great. But I think the key was having Dadanov with Duchene and Sagan. That just seemed to unlock something in that line. And I enjoyed that DeBoer did not just kind of sit back and continue to watch them maybe feel out the process. And the line of Duchene, Dadanov, and Sagan was phenomenal. 4 scoring chances for themselves, and of course they cashed in. And it was a beautiful in the net mouth scramble, of course. And Dadanov is able to pot his first of the season. And like I touched on before this, Marchment with that 4th line, I thought was really, really intriguing. And I'm excited to see what DeBoer goes with, the rest of the way. Maybe he goes back to it. Maybe it's just something mid-game that he wanted to get into and see if it creates some offense. And maybe part of it was just the Stars were hungrier and they started to play a better type of game. And maybe that was his way of sending a message like, hey, not liking the way we're playing here, especially when they were on their heels in the first half of that second period. And you guys need to pick it up. And maybe that was the message he wanted to send. And he sent it loud and clear, maybe. And they ended up really, really playing a solid game. So just, I love that because in the spring, he was just so good to DeBoer, and just he seemed to make the right choices at the right time. The whole Colin Miller situation and Joel Hanley and kind of flip-flopping them. They just always he just always picked the right choice. And big props to him because he just seems to have a great bead on his squad. And of course, the guys love playing for him, and the respect that they have in the clubhouse, or not the clubhouse, but the dressing room, I should say. And it just seems like he's able to get the best out of them, which is a great sign. And of course, in year two, we're kind of expecting this, and it's been maybe a bit slower to all come together, but you can't expect them to be perfect for all 82. And I completely understand that. And it was just fun to watch them get a lead, have a multi-goal lead as well, and kind of cruise into a win without the dramatic flair, because every game has been decided by one goal up to this point. So they were able to cruise to a nice victory in Pittsburgh. Those one-game road trips can be really weird. Sometimes you can just lay an egg, and it's a big win. Another 2 points. They got a point in 5 straight games, off to a phenomenal start. And they got Toronto coming to town on Thursday, which has always been a thorn in their side, I feel like. I'll have to look into the numbers on how they've fared against the Leafs, because in Pittsburgh, they hadn't been good. And I think the broadcast on Bally brought it up. Stars were like 3-10 the last 20 seasons in Pittsburgh. And I feel like every time they play Toronto too, they've come up on the short end of the stick. I feel like they've played a bit better in Toronto than they have at home, but I'll table this for another time. We'll just enjoy this victory for now, and you'll get that in the next episode before we preview that one. Alrighty, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed a Stars win. Enjoy your Wednesday, and I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. Hope everything's going phenomenal, especially in the Metroplex. I feel like we're all riding a high right now. It's a good time to be a sports fan. NBA is starting up too, so there's just tons and tons of things to consume. But hockey is back, man. It's just it's so fun, and the Stars team is going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited for the roller coaster. The ebbs and flows of a hockey season are unlike any other. So that's going to do it for myself today. You can follow me on the Twitter thing, the X Joey the Jet 19. I throw my opinions out there and stuff, especially during the hockey games when I'm anxiously watching these Stars, hoping to get the job done. Anyways, once again, have a wonderful day, and we will catch you tomorrow as we talk a little bit about those Maple Leafs. So long, Stars fans.